In the year 2023, a comprehensive planned refurbishment was initiated within an aging ministerial headquarters. This structure, erected in the mid-20th century, functioned as a sprawling administrative hub. The renovation work extended throughout the entire building, encompassing the utility levels and subterranean basements. A team of engineers was undertaking a comparison of the building's current configuration against its original archival plans. During this procedure, they identified a discrepancy in a wing of the basement. A blueprint from the 1960s depicted an office designated 047B. In its location, however, they found only a continuous masonry wall, devoid of any apparent access points. The initial hypothesis suggested the room's removal during a previous remodel. However, a more thorough examination of the wall uncovered a sealed-off doorway. The brickwork appeared aged, yet its material composition and hue were distinct from the surrounding primary wall. A decision was reached to breach the entryway. The process was overseen by the facility's director in collaboration with a representative from the National Records Bureau. Upon clearing the bricks, a steel door fitted with an antique lock was revealed. Affixed to the door was an unbroken wax seal from a state security entity, bearing the date 1971. The seal was fully intact. The door was unsealed and opened. It led to a compact, windowless chamber. The air inside was arid, carrying a potent scent of aged paper and accumulated dust. The contents of the room were in a state of perfect preservation. It held a desk, a chair, a filing cabinet, and various pieces of specialized apparatus. A consistent layer of dust coated every surface. An initial survey indicated that while the office was vacated in haste, it had been sealed with official procedure. This was not merely a forgotten space, but a site that had been intentionally conserved. Specialists from the state archives and historians of intelligence operations were summoned to ascertain the function of Office 047B. Through an analysis of the recovered documents and equipment, they swiftly determined its purpose. From the 1960s until the early 1970s, this room operated as an analytical station for processing data. Its primary responsibility was the surveillance and analysis of radio transmissions. Its subterranean placement offered essential sound insulation and shielding from external electromagnetic signals. The individual stationed here was tasked with decoding intercepted messages and creating daily summaries for high-level officials. It was a subordinate yet crucial element within a larger intelligence framework. Offices of this nature were established in numerous government facilities as a method to decentralize operations and enhance overall security. In formal documentation, the office was designated by the codename Beacon 7. It was not associated with any single major operation but was instead dedicated to the routine collection of intelligence concerning a potential foreign power. The functioning of these stations was governed by stringent protocols. Access was restricted to a select few individuals with the necessary authorization. Archival files indicate that the sealing of the office in 1971 was prompted by a technological modernization. The agency was adopting more advanced equipment that necessitated different types of facilities. The former station was deemed obsolete. It was sealed off along with some of its hardware, which, while no longer possessing significant value, still bore traces of classified activities. The regulations of the period mandated the complete isolation of a site upon its decommissioning. Following the unsealing of the room, a comprehensive inventory of its contents was performed. Each object was methodically documented, photographed, and subjected to expert analysis. The focal point of the room was a substantial oak desk with a green felt surface. On the desk were positioned a lamp featuring a weighty metallic base, a Bakelite inkstand, complete with 2 ink reservoirs, a hefty glass ashtray holding the remnant of a single cigarette of the Patriot brand, a pile of A4-sized paper, which had yellowed over time, a black rotary dial telephone, model at70. Its cord was uncoupled from the wall-mounted connection box. To the right of the desk, a collection of equipment was situated on a separate stand. A vacuum tube-based shortwave radio receiver, model TR-700 Vostok. The unit was in the off position. A reel-to-reel tape machine, the Accord M model. A spool of Type 6 magnetic tape was mounted on the device, partially unspooled. A teletypewriter, model T100. A roll of paper tape was loaded into it, with the final incoming message fragmented midword. A metal safe and a document cabinet were positioned along the wall. The safe was unlocked and unsealed. It contained bound ledgers detailing incoming and outgoing coded messages from 1969 to 1971. The cabinet held technical manuals for the apparatus, binders containing agency directives, and several folders of analytical briefs. Every document bore the classification for official use only. A tear-off calendar was hanging on the wall. Its visible page was dated Tuesday, the 12th of October, 1971. Beside it was a political map of Europe, featuring handwritten notations near a number of seaports. Above the map hung a portrait of Dmitry Volkov. The general state of all objects was assessed as excellent. The arid atmosphere and absence of light had preserved the paper, textiles, and metal. The room presented a precise, documentary tableau of a single workday for an analyst in the autumn of 1971. Formal records offered no personal information about the employee. The logs exclusively employed code names and service identification numbers. However, informal discoveries allowed for the construction of his personal profile. The cigarette end in the ashtray was a critical detail. It was a Patriot, a widely used brand of that era. An empty box of matches from the Kaluga Matchworks was found next to the ashtray. Several pencil-scribed notes were found inside a desk drawer. One of them was a diagram of a chess puzzle, a checkmate in 3 moves. This implies the employee had an interest in chess and likely solved such problems during his downtime. A torn section of a newspaper was tucked into one of the report folders. It was a television schedule for the week. A red pencil had been used to circle an ice hockey game between the Red Army and Dynamo teams, set for the evening of October 12, 1971. This indicates a personal interest in sports on the employee's part. The most revealing discovery was an unfinished cup of tea, with its dried dregs at the bottom. A chemical analysis confirmed a high concentration of tannins, indicating it was very strong black tea. The cup had been left directly on the desk, adjacent to the ledgers. These details form a portrait of an individual, not merely a functionary. The employee was a male, probably in his middle years. He was a smoker who took pleasure in chess and hockey. The potent tea suggests a focus on his duties, yet he was not devoid of common human habits. The abandoned teacup, the partially unwound tape, and the severed teletype message all depict a scene of an activity that was abruptly halted. The directive to seal the station must have been issued without any prior notice. The employee was likely instructed to vacate his post instantly, leaving everything in its current state. Office 047B represents something greater than a mere repository for obsolete items. It is a physical impression of its era. Each object within it serves as an emblem of the Cold War period. The tube radio, reel-to-reel recorder, and teletypewriter were the characteristic technologies of their generation. They were cumbersome and power-intensive, yet dependable. They signify the technological standards of the time. It was an analog age where information was conveyed by physical means, on tapes, punch cards, and paper dispatches. This was an era preceding the digital transformation, the internet, and satellite-based communications. The rigorous system of accounting and control is apparent throughout. The bound ledgers, wax seals, and classification markings all point to this. The state apparatus functioned according to unambiguous, formal regulations. Each action was recorded. The identity of the employee was subordinate to his assigned role. The absence of windows and the basement setting were not solely for technical reasons. They serve as a metaphor for the secrecy and isolation that defined the entire period. The rivalry between the two global superpowers was waged not only on battlefields but also in quiet, unseen offices such as this one. The political map on the wall, with its annotations, stands as direct proof of continuous global monitoring. The employee's personal effects, the chess puzzle, the interest in hockey, the cigarettes, demonstrate that even inside a rigid and impersonal framework, space for humanity existed. Routine duties did not supplant simple, everyday pastimes. Nevertheless, this personal sphere was entirely subservient to the demands of the service. Therefore, the discovered office is a microcosm. It encapsulates the ideological, technological, and psychological condition of a society at a particular moment in history. It is a tangible testament to an era, revealing more about the past than many written archival records. Once the inventory and analysis concluded, the agency leadership was faced with deciding the fate of Office 047B. Two primary courses of action were put forward. The first option entailed complete disposal. This would involve the removal and destruction of all equipment and documents. The room would subsequently be renovated and adapted for contemporary purposes. This was a pragmatic and economically sensible approach. From a purely functional perspective, the office held no value. The second option advocated for preservation and museumification. This course was championed by the historians and archivists involved in the discovery. They argued for the site's singular importance. The office was an authentic time capsule, an untouched installation that displayed the genuine working conditions of the Cold War era. Its significance was not functional, but historical and cultural. Representatives from several national museums voiced their support for the second option. They underscored that such genuine sites have rarely survived to the present day. Most analogous rooms were either repeatedly modernized or entirely dismantled. An interagency commission made the final determination. In light of the considerable public and historical interest, a compromise solution was adopted. The decision was made to preserve Office 047B in its original condition. All artifacts were left in their found positions. The room was sealed again and outfitted with a climate control system to halt any further deterioration of the materials. Physical access to the office itself was limited. However, a plan was approved to establish a small exhibition in an adjacent space. This exhibit features detailed photographs, replicas of documents, and a three-dimensional model of the office. A virtual tour enables anyone to investigate the discovery without compromising its integrity. In this manner, the time capsule has been conserved for future generations, serving as a physical monument to a complex and contentious period in history.